with Bairstow being ruled out, this clears the way for someone like Bhanuka coming into the 11 instead of Matt Short. And does it help them address that issue versus spin? One. The other is, you do you think their spin bowling was poor because it was also a function of the pitches on which the tournament was played on last year? Because we had one of the best batting pitches last year, I felt, in Maharashtra, but this time, with teams traveling and the pitches becoming slower, maybe the likes of Brar and Rahul Chahar can do a better job with the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I just chip in for a moment and then we can have Dan give his explanation. Rahul Chahar was still decent. What I felt happened was he did not find a lot of support from the other end, from Livingston and Brar. So maybe that is something that they'll have to look into. On the point of Rajapaksa, on paper, yes, it helps that they will have a left-hander with high intent in the middle order. But again, Rajapaksa's recent form has been on a curve which he wouldn't like. He was on the high post last season going into the Asia Cup, but since then his stock has fallen. So I'm not sure if how much of a impact his availability going to make.
From my perspective, I think that there's a few ways that they can structure up with the batting group following the injury to Bairstow. So I think the obvious choice would be, in terms of trying to go a bit more like for like, someone who's been with the franchise in previous years, would be to go with Rajapaksa and start him off as almost like a seniority decision, if that makes sense, kind of a faith decision, showing faith in a player who's done well for them in the past. I think also you could level that would be a lazy selection as well at the same time. And there are a few ways that I think they could structure up a little bit differently. So they could look to push everyone else up one, and then bring in Sikandar Raza at, let's say, number 7, which would then produce an extra spin option that they can utilise, particularly against left-hander heavy teams, which would be quite nice. There's also the other option of bringing in, obviously, Matt Short, who's just come in. But I think there's a lot to ask of someone to come in from the BBL, where there's not a lot of high-quality spinners, and the pitch is generally not massively conducive to spin, to come in and hit the ground running in markedly different conditions, and ultimately in what is, to be honest, a higher standard of competition as well. So I think that's a lot to ask of Matt Short. The other option, which I find really interesting, and we can certainly go on to discuss this and how maybe you can structure up this with an impact player as well, is the addition of maybe a Ataide as a left-hander who can bat in the top order for Bairstow, and then you can structure up differently, because then you can get a Raza in to improve your batting depth as well. Or you can go Nathan Ellis and you just have 20 overs locked with Curran, Rabada, Chahar, Ellis and Arshdeep. And you have a really strong bowling heavy team. Yes, the tail's a little bit long, Rabada 8, Chahar 9, Ellis 10 or something like that. But they're all kind of like number 9s. If does that make sense? Like they're kind of like 3 number 9s batting at 8, 9 and 10. So that could work too. But I mean, bowling strong teams tends to do pretty well in tournaments. So it's maybe a little spin light still if you did that. But that's where you want a player like Livy to step up and bowl 2-3 overs in every game as well. So you bowl 7 overs of spin in the game. There's a few options there, and I think it will be quite interesting to discuss all those.
Now, another question that comes up is that there's an obvious slot of one Indian batter somewhere in that 11. Now, who would that Indian batter be? Would it be someone like Prabsimran Singh, who's been with the franchise, I think, now for 4 years and has been able to get 1 or 2 games every season but not been able to do much? Or do they go for someone like Harpreet Singh Bhatia, who plays for Chhattisgarh in the domestic competition? Or do they go for someone like Atharva Taide, who's also both Harpreet and Atharva Taide are left-handers, who's also a youngster, and he was with the team, I think, last season around as well. So who's the first choice player for both of you? I'd probably prefer going with Atharva Taide, and him and Shikhar opening with 1 down, with Rajapaksa at 1 down, I want to know what do you guys think?
I think if you open with Tide, it's a bit samey with two left-handers who maybe not that high in intent, and that would be my major concern with that strategy. Look, I have Prab in my starting 11, and I think obviously he's been with the team for a long time. He was from a very young age, and I know someone that we were really hoping that would develop as a top player over the coming years. So for me, he's someone I want to give a long opportunity to. Someone who plays a high intent, so you have to give them that opportunity to thrive rather than be fearful of his place. And he's come off the back of a really strong domestic tournament, 320 runs, an average of over 50, striking at 142. So that's all you can really ask for of a young player. And we're still, I'd say you say he's been at the franchise for a while, but he's still only 20 years old. So for me, I would just give him that opportunity to thrive, and I would look to open him probably with Shikhar Dhawan.
Fair enough. Sumesh, what's your call?
I mean, I sort of agree here. I was just thinking of their 11, and my 11 was something like Dhawan, Prabsimran, Rajapaksa, Livingston, Jitesh, Shahrukh, Sam Curran, and of course Atharva Tide somewhere in the middle, with Rahul Chahar, Ellis, and Arshdeep to finish, and then Harpreet Brar can be used as an impact player to replace any of the batters.
Okay, so Karan at 7, Ellis at 8, Chahar at 9, Arshdeep at 10.
Karan at 8, in fact, because you have Atharva Tide as well, who's going to
Okay.
be in the top 7. And Karan can essentially be used as a floater, because with Karan and Rajapaksa and Tide, what Punjab can actually do is ensure that there is a left and right hand combination throughout the innings. Because one of the things, specifically a team like Punjab, who do not have so-called spin bashers, would not want is to have the batters with the same hand in the middle. So one thing that they can actually do is just ensure that there is a lefty-righty combination throughout.
Also, it's very peculiar, but Bhanuka Rajapaksa has good numbers versus right arm leg spin, but not so good numbers against left arm spin. It's very peculiar anyway. But if
I just think that long boundaries in Australia did him in there, because a lot of teams bowled to the longer end, and he got sucked into the shots.
Probably. Somesh, with what you mentioned, with Prabsimran opening and then having Atharva Tide somewhere in that batting order so that he can be used as a floater, wouldn't it be better to get someone like a Rishi Dhawan in the 11, and then have Atharva Tide as one of the impact players or a possible impact player along with Harpreet Brar, depending upon the conditions, bring them in, because I feel with Rishi Dhawan you get some bowling cover as well.
Yeah, but I mean that will depend if they're batting first or bowling first. Because if they're batting first, then Tide starts, and Rishi Dhawan and Harpreet Brar are your impact subs. But if they're bowling first, then definitely either of Brar or Rishi Dhawan start, and Tide then becomes your impact player who sort of changes in the mid innings.
Dan, is your 11 also on the similar lines? Because Somesh, I see only one point of contention over there, which is that would you go for Rabada or Ellis? Somesh has gone for Ellis. I tend to lean on the same option. I'd also prefer going for Ellis instead of Rabada, because I feel over the last 2 years Rabada's white ball form has taken a major hit, and sometimes he's just too unpredictable. What are your thoughts on that, Dan?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I rate Ellis super highly, and I think that for those listeners and watchers who aren't aware, he has one of the highest percentages in the world for bowling power play and death overs. So if you add the percentage of his overs in the power play plus add the percentage of his overs in the death, it's around 90%. So he's bowling the tough overs super consistently. He's stepping up when it matters, and from conversations that I've had with people who've worked with him in the past as well, he loves it. He really embraces the high pressure moments, and that's a skill set that I think is pretty rare. Finding room for him in the 11 is tougher unless you go with more domestic batters, because I'm fairly certain that they're going to Well, not that anyone's told me, but just I think that they'll go with Rabada, reputational pick, spent more money on him. He was playing last season, etc., etc. And also I think that it's the only other thing that maybe would be in Ellis's favour is that Trevor Bayliss was his coach in the 100 last year at London Spirit, so he will, and he was superb in that tournament. So there might be kind of that leaning towards Bayliss picking him, but I also worry a little bit about their opening choices in the first few matches. Having an overseas coach, a brand new coach to the group, is not going to be easy in terms of preparation and him understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the domestic players in the group. And as I said earlier, with 4 qualifying from 10, you lose 2 or 3 out of your first 3 games and you're playing catch up straight away because you're going to need minimum 16 points to qualify. And they can't afford to make bad decisions, bad tactical decisions in terms of strategy and selection in these first few games. I think it's the performance in these first 3-4 games is going to be critical for the success of Punjab moving forward in this tournament.
All right. There's another player that I wanted to discuss. Maybe, Dan, you've had looked at his numbers. This player is Vidwat Kavirappa. So this is one player who's had decent numbers in the domestic competition. He took 18 wickets for Karnataka in the recently concluded in the last Syed Mushtaq Ali tournament at an average of 10.7 and an economy rate of 6.36. Do you guys think that he could be one of those players who just turns around things or takes the tournament by surprise?
From my side, definitely a potential breakout star. Looking at the numbers wise, obviously I haven't seen anything video wise of him, but what I do when someone has these little breakthrough seasons like he had with Karnataka is look at his performances in other formats as well. And in List A cricket, his numbers are similarly impressive. Average of 13, economy of 3.5, and in first-class cricket as well, 34 wickets in 10 matches, averaging just over 20 with a really solid economy rate of 2.6 as well. So, look, that for me is a rubber stamp of his quality. Certainly someone that I'm really excited to see. And this is, again, where I talk about foreign coach comes in. He may not have a great idea about the strengths of Vidwat Kavirappa before the tournament starts, and sometimes that's a problem. So with the new coach, new captain, it's so important for them to hit the ground running. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this player will bring, and certainly is one to watch.
Fair enough. Somesh, coming to you, which one player do you think is important for them and they can't afford to lose? Because if they lose that player, their balance is gone for a toss.
Well, there is a reason they spent 18.5 crores on Sam Curran. Without him, it would be almost impossible to balance this side because Sikandar Raza and Sam Curran are not like for like by any stretch of imagination. So I think with Punjab, it's fairly straightforward that the most important player in their mix is Sam Curran. He solves a lot of issues. I mean, he can be used as a floater. He's a lefty. He has improved massively as a death bowler, but he has the ability to swing the ball as well. So if they actually go with Ellis, him and Arshdeep can be take the new ball, and it's better to have 2 left arm pacers up front than 2 right arm pacers. So yeah, for me it's Sam Curran.